Today we're playing with Mica Gloss. There's 18 beautiful pearlescent colors that you can mix and match, and we've not found anything that makes a bad combination. They're absolutely gorgeous. So the way that we get started is I've chosen 3 of the colors. I have purple, rose gold, and gold. And I'm going to squeeze out about a dime-sized diameter of the ink. And one thing I forgot to tell you is you need to make sure that you shake these really good before you use them. And when you squeeze it out, you want this to be the consistency of maybe heavy cream. So I have the purple and then now the red here. And you can spread this out with your finger, or you can use something like a brayer. Now I have this brayer here, and I'm going to pull the ink right on this beautiful black postcard, this black glossy postcard, and I have a lot of ink on my brayer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to ink my stamp. But I guess I need a stamp. So there's a whole wall of stamps behind me here. I'm going to go get a stamp. We've got this beautiful tuned flower here, I think is going to be nice, and this floral silhouette, and oh, this cute, cute, cute little quilted butterfly. So taking up my tune block here, I'm going to use my brayer and I'm going to ink up the stamp. And I'm just kind of moving it around in a couple different directions, and then we're going to stamp right on my postcard. So just press it straight down, nice and even pressure. And isn't that a great print on the card? You can see how you've got this pearlescent shimmer and how beautiful that combination looks. Now I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to let that dry, and let's go back to my original piece of paper here. That's pretty inky, but one thing you can do with that, if there's too much ink on there, is you could flip it over and you can lay this on the top of another card and just kind of spread that out with your fingers. And now I have 2 cards. Now there's still a lot of ink on here, and can you believe I can use that as an ink pad as well. So if I take my stamp, and I've got this nice silhouette stamp here, and I tap my stamp onto my paper, I can actually stamp this right onto the card. So take the second image, just ink that up, and stamp again. And finally, I'm going to go back to the original image that I used, tap on some more ink, and this time I picked up a little bit of the red on there, and I'm going to stamp the 3rd image. And look at how beautiful that looks right on this black glossy postcard. This is going to take about a half an hour to dry, and if you're in a hurry like I usually am, you can take your heat gun and you can just turn it on and dry it with the heat. Now the 2 cards that I kind of used to start out with, if I don't like the texture on there, I can go back over it with my brayer very carefully, and what that does is that softens the texture right on this postcard. Now that my paper is dry, I'm going to stamp and emboss it with black ink and black embossing powder. So if I take my butterfly stamp here and I tap on some ink, and you want to make sure you get a nice coverage of ink on your stamp, then press it down firmly on the card, cover up your ink pad. That's really important because you don't want to get embossing powder on your pad. And then dump your powder on there, and then I like to capture it in this little tray, and then just give it a good thunking to tap off the extra embossing powder. Now take your heat gun. Now first thing is you got to cover up your embossing powder, and then take your heat gun and we're going to melt that powder. Now once the powder's melted and my embossing powder is cool, now I can color it in with the Mica Gloss inks just like I'm using watercolor. So I'm going to take another black glossy postcard here and use that like a palette. Again, shake up my Mica Gloss inks, and I'm going to put a little bit of the purple out and a little bit of the rose gold, and finally a little bit of the gold. Just 3 small dots here. Then, using my water brush, I pick up some of that ink on the tip of the brush and then come into my butterfly here and just tap that color in. Look at how beautiful we've got this pearlescent sheen on the butterfly. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of the purple here and apply that to this other side. And even though I get a little bit of ink on top of the embossing, I can actually wipe that away in just a little while once it's dried, just a little bit. Tap off some of that excess ink and pick up the rose gold and apply that right where these leaves are. And continue to color. I'll continue to color this in. And then it just takes about another maybe 10 minutes to dry. If you want to speed up the drying, you can use your heat gun. So let me show you what the card looks like when it's completed. Now remember that first stamp that I used, the floral tune block, where I brayered the excess Mica Gloss ink off of the brayer and onto the stamp, and I stamped it on this matte coat postcard. Look at how beautiful those colors come out. And I wanted to show you, every time you use the Mica Gloss ink in the brayer, you're always going to get a surprise because you never know how those colors are going to blend. And it's always a little difficult to stamp that image perfectly in the center, so I cropped it and I mounted it right onto the card. Look at how great that looks. Now here is the card that we made using the postcard with the excess ink as the ink pad. And I used the Silhouette Floral Cube and I stamped that on this black glossy note card. Again, I trimmed it up and I mounted it onto the terracotta colored cardstock and this plum colored shimmer coat card. Finally, remember that butterfly that I stamped embossed? Look at how beautiful it looks watercolored. It just shimmers so great. And the other thing is, look at all this excess area that you have now that you can stamp and emboss or just use that as a background. This is what the card looks like when it's finished. I cut out the butterfly and I added a little bit of the paper cords, which is a metallic wrapped paper cord, just so that I have the little antenna for the butterfly. For this project, I used the rose gold, the purple, and the gold Mica Gloss inks. But don't forget, there's another 15 other colors. There's 18 total colors that you can use to create a whole variety and an infinite number of projects.